Okay, so we've had the roundup of the season with the big finals. Of course, the FA Cup final ending with Man City beating Man United 2-1. The first time two Manchester clubs have actually met in a cup final, which did surprise me a little bit. I know they met at Wembley in the semis very recently. West Ham, what a night, what a moment for them winning the Conference League. And of course, the Champions League final with Man City completing the treble. There's been lots going on. So what I just thought I'd do is have a little bit of fun. I've seen other people discussing it, thought I'd do it myself. Just ranking trophies, ranking them, not tier listing so much. I actually want to really decide between certain trophies, which is better. And look, there's going to be lots of things that determine these things. And I will also say that it's not that important. I am one of these people that, when it comes to trophies, I don't really belittle any of them, including the Carabao Cup. If Arsenal won the Carabao Cup, I'm going to enjoy it. I think trophies are so few and far between in football. Lifting trophies is such a rarity. Some fans have never seen their clubs do it. And listening to what West Ham fans have gone through waiting so long to finally lift a trophy, I won't really diminish anything too much. But of course, there are certain exemptions. Let's talk about them. So we've got the six main ones: the Premier League, the Champions League, you've got the FA Cup, you've got the Europa League, Conference League, Carabao Cup. Those six we're going to talk about. I will just give a line on the Community Shield at the end of this video. Not because I'm an Arsenal fan, because they're in it. But I will just sort of mention my thoughts on that. Let's go with the sixth. For me, what I guess you classify the least important of the trophies. And I think it's got to be right between the Carabao Cup and the UEFA Conference League. And the one thing I'd say about both is I actually think it depends a little bit who you support. Now hear me out on this. West Ham won the Conference League. If you offered West Ham the Conference League or the Carabao Cup, they would choose the Conference League any day of the week, and I fully agree with that. I understand why they would. It's a European trophy, it's a big night in Europe, it gets you into the Europa League. There is so much to love about the Conference League. And I really like the competition. I actually think fair play they brought in. A lot of people were hating on it. I think no, I think it's great that a lot of clubs get to play in Europe and have that opportunity to win it. However, as an Arsenal fan, I'm only speaking as an Arsenal fan here, would I take the Conference League over the Carabao Cup? The answer is probably no, because to win the Carabao Cup, on some level, you probably still have to beat someone quite good to do it. Man United and Newcastle were in the final. Liverpool beat Chelsea in the final the year before. Man City had won it 4 years in a row before that. So actually, you get some serious sides who win the Carabao Cup. The Conference League, if you tell me now Arsenal win the Conference League in 2 years' time, I'm thinking, well, oh no, what's gone wrong for us to even be in it? No offence, I'm just being honest here. And then I'm thinking, well, who have we even beaten on run to doing it? Now, I know that in saying that I might be disrespecting West Ham fans, and I don't mean to be. I just think what I'm saying is, I think it kind of depends what club's in it. So as an Arsenal fan, if you're offering me the Carabao Cup or the Conference League in a couple of years' time, I'd rather the Carabao Cup, because I think that probably says a little bit more, or certainly being in the Conference League would say a little bit more about where we are. However, for the sake of these rankings and taking everything into account, it being a European competition, I think you have to play more games, and it's generally probably harder work to win the Conference League. I've mentioned it's a European competition, I would say the Carabao Cup is the sixth most important competition, but I'd give the Conference League the fifth. And I don't think the Conference League is bigger than the FA Cup. I'm very confident on that. I think the FA Cup and then the Europa League are then fighting out for third and fourth. And this again is interesting. You've got the FA Cup, the most prestigious cup competition in world football. Again, you're going to be coming up against some really top sides to win it. Man City have just won it, and look at the list of winners over many years. I mean, yeah, you get the odd great story in the FA Cup, but generally the best clubs win the FA Cup, or some of the most competitive clubs in England are winning the FA Cup. So again, the Europa League, there is still very good competition, especially because that bracket of third teams in the group stage of the Champions League drop into it. I don't disrespect the Europa League. It gets you a place in the Champions League, and some very good sides have won it over the years. But again, I think there is a debate. However, and this is coming from an Arsenal fan who loves the FA Cup, who's seen us win it 4 times in the last 10 years, who, my club has won it more times than any other club in the world. I think the Europa League maybe has the edge on the FA Cup. So I would say that the FA Cup is the fourth biggest competition out of those 6, and the Europa League is the third, just because it gets into the Champions League, the prestige of winning in Europe. Over the last few years, Arsenal have won 4 FA Cups, but people keep saying, yeah, but what have you done in Europe? What have you done on the biggest stage? And for some reason, it gets a little watered down. But I think both are very good competitions. I don't really laugh at either. When Arsenal were fighting for the Premier League, but we still had the Europa League, I didn't want us to throw it away, and we sort of did. I didn't want us to rotate in the FA Cup either against Man City, and we did. And now we sort of have a trophyless season to kind of show for what was actually a really, really good campaign. And I'm talking from the Arsenal perspective here, but yeah, generally. But again, maybe you flip it. I mean, maybe, again, Man City, if you're offering them the FA Cup or the Europa League, they're saying the FA Cup because they're saying, well, why would we want to be in the Europa League? That's probably true as an Arsenal fan. It is difficult. You know what is difficult? Actually, that's making me change my mind a little bit. It's that getting Champions League football that just has that impact on the Europa League. But I think if you're ignoring how you get there and you're talking about just the winning of it, I think I give the Europa League the edge. God, I'm changing my mind as I'm recording this. Let me know in the comment section below, what's bigger? I guess you got the Wembley final with the FA Cup. I'm really undecided, you know. I'm going to come back to it. No, I'm not. I'm just going to stick with it. You know what? I might change my mind. FA Cup 4th, Europa League 3rd. I think winning something in Europe, you know, and you do get some very good sides in it. I think that probably just carries a little bit more weight than the FA Cup, which is a shame. I don't want to say that, but I think it probably does. Also, when you look at the way the FA Cup's treated at times. This is a very difficult video in some ways, because then I think when you get to the Premier League and the Champions League, I think there's a real debate there. I know a lot of people who'd rather win the Premier League over the Champions League. Even Arsenal fans who have won the Premier League before but never the Champions League. There are a lot of people that just think over 38 games, you've proven more, you're the outright best team in the country and one of the best teams in Europe if you win, or in the world if you win the Premier League. The Champions League, I don't want to say you can fluke it, you can't. But you can have stories like where Chelsea did win the Champions League twice, but they weren't the best team in Europe, in fact nowhere near it. But then you do get stories like Real Madrid dominate for so long, and Bayern Munich and Liverpool and Man City have just done it, and they absolutely are the best team in Europe. So I would say, as I'm hiccuping, apologies, I would say the Premier League second and the Champions League first. I just think the Premier League, I think the Premier League winners are more often, they're always the best team in the league, whereas I don't think you have to be the best team in Europe to win the Champions League. But I just think there's a prestige to doing it, planting your flag in Europe and telling the world, yeah, we are Champions League winners. But it's really tough, and I think you do separate it between Champions League, Premier League are like if you were tier listing it, they're elite. FA Cup or Europa League, fantastic competitions to win, great trophies, and then Carabao Cup and Conference League are, you know, like I said, I never laugh at any trophy, but, you know, it's kind of like, yeah, good trophies. Sure, you've won silverware, but would they be considered major trophies? So yeah, it's very interesting, like it's a good one to debate, but one thing I'll always say is, look, I was an Arsenal fan through that 9-year trophy drought. I don't laugh at any trophy, apart from the Conference League, only because you have to finish 7th in the league to be in it. But generally, I don't really scoff at any trophy. If Arsenal win the Carabao Cup, I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to celebrate it. Why not? And then I said I'd just drop a line on the Community Shield. And the reason I'm going to just have a little word on this is, if you're asking me right now, do I treat it as a serious competition? No, I don't. But I would say that I think a lot of it is down to the branding. Now, the fact that it's a charity event, that, you know, the money goes towards charity, and that it's a curtain raiser, you know, and it's kind of played in the midst of pre-season. I think those sort of things are what kind of, I don't know, what's the word, just pour a bit of water on it as a competition. You know, it dilutes it a little bit. If it were called the English Super Cup, I think people would be treating it differently. Across Europe, the Super Cup is treated massively. In Italy, it's big. In Spain, it's big. In Germany, it's big. It's called the Super Cup, and it matters. And I think if we had that in England, people would treat it differently, and it'd probably be a lot higher. I mean, look at the UEFA Super Cup between the Europa League and Champions League winners. It matters. Look at the Club World Cup. It matters. These are competitions that you enter via winning other competitions. It's a shame that the winners of the FA Cup playing the winners of the Premier League doesn't have that kind of same level of prestige. And by the way, Arsenal are playing in it because they finished second and Man City won the FA Cup, it really should be the Carabao Cup winners. Give that a little bit more importance and put them in the Community Shield if the FA Cup winners are the same as the Premier League winners. But it's not. It's the second place in the Premier League. But I just find it all kind of very fascinating how we look at trophies. And, you know, when Ferguson's, you know, honours were read out at Old Trafford, when Guardiola and Mourinho talk about their trophies, they talk about the Community Shield, and you see players in the dressing room, they celebrate it when they win it. When they don't, it kind of doesn't matter. But when they win it, it's a big deal. So kind of who are we as fans to take that away from them a little bit and say, oh, it doesn't really matter when we're the ones critiquing them and criticising all the time when they do wrong. They do something right, maybe we let them enjoy it. But I don't know, it's interesting. I love your thoughts on the Community Shield. I'd love to know how you rank all those competitions, because I'll be honest, anyone who majorly disagrees in the comments, especially between some of the ones I've pitted up against each other, I'm not going to argue too much. I can be swayed either way. I'm still changing my mind a little bit there on the FA Cup and Europa League. Yeah, difficult one. Those are my thoughts. Hit the like button if you enjoyed this video, subscribe to the channel, go check out my latest video on Man City, the Centurions versus the treble winners. Would love your thoughts on that as well. And yep, I'll be back with more content on Friday. Many, many thanks.